finance projects. That's how really it started. That was the base of it. How do we do that in a way that's on chain? Therefore, bridging off chain assets to on chain. Tackling a problem that no one really had tackled in the way in which we could do it. Um, Personally, I chose anonymity. Firstly, because I thought that a DAO really represents the best of us as far as like having an autonomous organization where no one person is bigger than the DAO itself, where no one person has necessarily more influence, positive or negative, than the organization itself. We used the board from Star Trek, if you could spin that maybe in a positive way, as an example of that type of assimilation. Um, However, I am a real person, and I do have a past, and I have made mistakes. Um, and and this is speaking as me. In 2006, at 21 years of age, I started a company, and I made enormous mistakes in that company. And the result of that was a lot of pain, a lot of hurt people. I spent 8 years in prison because of that, paying for those mistakes. Um, you know me as Fiscus Calisota, but I am Phil Ragland, and this is not a rug pull for those that would think that. First off, um, I've made mistakes even now in choosing anonymity. The thought was absolutely, my past would get in the way. I felt that it would. That was a choice that was made, and that was a mistake. And that's a mistake that I bring here now, that I bring to the community now, to the Fiscus DAO community. I am sorry, and that doesn't cut it. You guys have entrusted in me to kind of steer the ship, obviously, and that's something that has affected you. And so for that, I apologize. I truly apologize. Um, it is not a apology that comes lightly. These last 24 hours have been very hard personally. Um, Knowing what is the right thing to do and doing it sometimes are two very difficult things. And in choosing to do this, I want it to be known and to be out there that I've seen the impact that the recent FUD, which obviously has elements of truth in it. I see the impact that has had on other team members and the deep dive that's gone into their lives. I don't want to put them in a position to lie, and that's what I've done, and even I myself have done that to you, and you guys deserve better than that because those that truly believe in Fiscus DAO, there's definitely a way forward. Whether that is with me or without, there's definitely a way forward. Um, what we can do, there's no doubt to that. It's something that's set. This wasn't some type of scenario where we say, okay, let's come in and let's do this, and we have no exit, and we don't know what's going on. That's not the case. It's absolutely sound. The part that has been unsound has been me in dealing with you as Fiscus Calisota instead of as who I am, as Philip Ragland. Um, for those that would say again that there may not be any substance here, or I've invited Princess Veray, who obviously we've spoken about, and you guys will see the additions on the site after we complete. Invited her here really to speak on projects, and also to speak on the relationship that we have. Those that have done a certain amount of research know that founded a company called Alpha Lease um, just last year. Seems like a long time ago, and it was started to do something different, something revolutionary, to think differently. And then on that thought, there were certain individuals that gravitated towards difference in which we looked at not only business, but also real estate, finance, crypto, and obviously ending up here with a DAO. And so, with that being said, really just wanted to get straight to that. I'll invite Princess to say a few things, and then I'll have some more things to say, and then we'll also open it up as well.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking some time to get up to date on what's going on. Really, actually, very excited to have this conversation because Phil and I, we began our journey together when he was really creating the idea and concept of Alpha Lease, and he was at that time seeking funding from an investment bank that I was affiliated with as a broker for that exchange. And in the process, as some of you may even have that experience in the finance world, we have to do our due diligence, but we don't ever allow any of the due diligence that we do to interrupt exactly the solutions that need to come into the marketplace, and just trying to understand exactly who leadership is, what management looks like, as we've all experienced over the last 2 years, really, under COVID. A lot of that shakeup is real, and that reckoning is recognizable and timely. So, my name is Princess Virai. I am the executive principal of Waweya Management and Consulting. I formed this company as a way to really address global financing for projects really in the indigenous space. I am Ilocano and Ilongot in lineage, which is two indigenous groups that come out of the islands of the Philippines, but have partnered with several lending facilities that are on the private lending scale to finance about 2/3 of projects that I see in the international space outside of the United States, and about 1/3 here in domestically in the U.S. Because of the partnerships that I have been able to create through my journey as a financial professional, I run into all types, all experiences of leadership. Some of you've had some conversation with me about exactly my affiliation with the Fiscus DAO, and really I come in as a premier lending partner. I do large-scale project financing from the private lending space in the capital, with capital that is very competitive at cost, because we're really trying to get into the emerging markets, into new technologies. And I'm actually really excited because we see some pathways for projects that we haven't seen before. And in this week, we are looking at financing close to $200 million across 3 projects, with a 4th one emerging. All projects that are originating in the United States, but have affiliations with the UN and the Human Rights Commission, that have affiliations with media across the Pacific, affiliations also within the CBD medical space, and producing a type of beverage that the U.S. Department of Education in New York has some real interest in supporting, because of needing clinical trials to support our youngsters in their treatment through some of the most pressing issues that are impacting our young learners right now. The work that I do in conjunction with Fiscus DAO is in a partnership around creating that kind of financing opportunity that allows all of us to participate in these exceptional projects that have not only the multiples, as those of us who are interested in the rate of the return on these types of investments and project participation, but also they're just good projects. We're trying to do good for humanity, trying to do good for the world, and we're really trying to isolate these new technologies that we wouldn't necessarily hear from because they have been bogged down in the spaces of social inequities and also have had negative impacts when it comes to environmental challenges. They're actually addressing things like clean air, clean water, new and renewable energies. And when I met Phil and talking to him about Alpha Lease, it was a typical investment banking broker trying to sort out what's this company about, and I saw the dynamics that we haven't been able to see in real estate and wanted to support that. Very quickly, we came through and found his past, and really I took a lot of consideration in what that meant, not only for my work as a professional at the time, but also ongoing work and achievement, because at the end of the day, what you've experienced in creativity is unique and original to Phil. And he's also somebody who's learned from his mistakes. I've seen the impact of that on him, and also the impact on the communities that he's gone back to correct in making those mistakes. And what I've been really extremely supportive of is him to continue to move with strong supports, like people like myself and others, to stay on target, to stay focused on the delivery of the benevolent solutions that we all are excited to see emerge in spaces that have been in the past very corrupt and disheartening for humanity as a whole. So, for me, I stand very firmly clear that the work that I do with Phil is very transparent. We do a lot of conversations throughout the week to ensure that the due diligence measures that I draw from and use are from traditional financing models, and ensure that we are able to document those processes along the way, and to make sure that the projects that we're financing have not only financial achievements, but really making sure that we have the positive social impact and environmental impact that we're wanting to see. I partner with several different companies globally that are positioning or postured in the environment as experts at high levels, not just in education and research, but also in their track record of producing everything from ESG scorecards to full-on assessments to really begin benchmarking projects for the delivery of that positive impact that we're wanting to see. So we work on a couple different levels with the team that I am leading, and then we partner with companies like Fiscus DAO to really make sure that we're reaching the outer edges of the possibilities. And because we all know that in order to take success to its greatest level, we have to not only take on risk, but also address risk. And that's a conversation that Phil and I have on a regular basis in terms of how do we de-risk our project ideas that are coming forward through prudent and very clear financial modeling and support, as well as making sure that we're communicating that back to the private lending facilities that we utilize to really achieve the kind of momentum that we're wanting to see in the marketplace. So I think I'll stop there and just say that, I stand, in as a character support and reference for the work that I've seen with Phil over the last year. And we have had some very real conversations about the transparency models that we need right now. And I'm really excited to, for you to get to know him on that level, and for him to continue to strengthen his leadership, not only in this community, but in any other communities that he's taking that leadership to. So I hope that you all are, seeing the excitement, seeing the momentum that has been created, and understanding that I am a real person, he's a real person, and we're all really trying to get to those solutions and find the capital needs met through real prudent structures that we've designed. So thank you, Phil, for this opportunity to be present, to be here, and to really listen in on, where does the community want to go, and how this type of, transparency and holding each other accountable to the good work that we're doing, by being good model community members, will take us to the next level of this type of creative community support for the projects that are necessary for the progress of humanity and all of our needs as we, sort out, all the damage that has been done in the past, so that we can move forward to the bright and gleaming future that we have to work together collectively. So thank you, Phil.
Thank you so much as well. And for everyone, I know that that for some of you, this still may have an element of risk. And for those, literally, those ones over the last 24 hours, anyone that is requesting a refund absolutely will get it. The team will be back on and processing those shortly after this AMA. So if you haven't filled out the form and you choose to do so, please do so. We understand that everyone has personal risk assessment that they would do for projects. We know what's going on in other projects, and so we know that family happiness and really your own sanity and safety is of utmost concern to you, and we understand that and we see that from our perspective as well. With that being said, I don't feel like I could truly apologize enough for anyone that feels misled. Open to additional conversation, answering of questions, and we'll let Showtime actually lead us in some questions, please.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Well, I think a lot of people are probably pretty shocked at the moment, including myself. I'm gonna, you know what? Let me do this. Before I bring some things up, let me preface it with some of just me for just a second. Every time I get more followers on Twitter, this is not about me having followers, but I do need to preface this. I see it as sort of a responsibility. I always say, 10,000 followers, that means it's 10,000 more people I'm responsible for. Now, I'm not responsible for the decisions, but I do know that it carries a degree of influence, right? I consider myself an educator, but I also consider myself a somebody who is kind of in the driver's seat, that I do know that the risk is that people are going to follow what I say. So I always like to wait until I come out with projects, until I have done my due diligence. In a situation like this, it was new, to where, there is a deep dive that the community has done, but there's clearly some concerns here, and some really serious concerns. Now, I'll just preface by saying, people make mistakes. No human is perfect. And that being the case, there are still some really serious concerns that I don't want to let you off the hook for. And I want to try to be, with my questions here, non-emotional as much as possible, and fair but tough. Okay. So let me preface it with that. All right. And I'm just going to get right into probably a lot of things people are wondering about. Kind of the first thing that's coming to my mind, I'd like for you to comment on this. I'm reading an announcement that was posted in the Fiscus DAO Discord from yesterday, that talked about Phil, being you, obviously now, not being associated with the team. Obviously, that's not true. So why say that if it wasn't true? Why not just from the start and the get-go come out and just be transparent from the very beginning, instead of trying to hide who you are? Obviously, I know you have a past, but you got this announcement clearly saying you weren't part of the team, which is what I was going off of. But now, not only are you part of the team, you're the CEO. So could you comment on that statement, please?
Absolutely. Fear, fear and embarrassment. I really thought that we'd be able to really get Fiscus really up and rolling, get past, several of these events and to launch. And, 3 or 4 months after launch, when the DAO was fully in place, that I'd be able to kind of ease back and really kind of leave without anyone really knowing. And that was a mistake on my part, and that was an outright lie. That's something that our community admins, our moderators, had no responsibility in. They were just going with what was given to them. And so that's something that I hold personally and completely responsible for that lie.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I know what is likely, I don't know, but likely what's going through people's heads, right? I'm going to word this the way people are probably thinking in their head. And what they're probably thinking is, okay, Phil, you basically excuse my language here, you kind of screwed people over in the past. So how do we know you're not screwing us over now? I'm sure that's what people are asking. So would you mind answering that for us?
Sure. I would ask everybody to base it on what they've experienced in Fiscus DAO. 100% so far. Any of those that have asked for refunds, have asked for that have been given them or will be given them as we continue to process them. Those that have already have. When it comes to any form of dev token or kind of set aside, that's been always been a no. Because we knew where Fiscus would go, and that's still the belief. And then, really lastly, I would just say that, sometimes you don't know until you experience it. And I understand that there's that level of risk, but, open to any type of controls, and of governance that the community feels like would limit me. Those are the things that I'm, obviously fully open for, because I would rather see Fiscus succeed than necessarily succeed with me.
Do the investors or the other people involved with these projects, these off-chain projects, are they aware of you, your past? Are they kind of aware that you were trying to remain anonymous in the crypto world? I would imagine they have to know who you are. Can you speak on that a little bit? I'm just kind of curious what
Sure.
their take was, and if you had any issues with any of them when you were trying to start some of these partnerships up.
No, they do. Obviously, Princess spoken as kind of the lead liaison to projects. She obviously knows who I am, and even in meetings that we've had with project owners and developers, they speak to me as Phil. They know me more as Phil, from Alpha Lease, than they do as Cal from Fiscus.
Okay. The refunds, like how are you refunding people back if some of that money, I don't believe all of it's been spent, correct me if I'm wrong. How can you refund people back if money has been spent? I'm kind of curious about that.
Sure. So there were some significant increases in Matic, and so whenever possible, like if an off-chain cost came up, and we will do a report so everyone knows. I know that a lot of times is not necessarily done at an NFT stage or at an initial kind of a seed event, but we want everyone to know that we're fully transparent on that. But we would wait for there to be an increase in Matic before expenses would be paid, if at all possible. The same with ETH. And so that mitigated those project expenses. And then outside of that, 3 of the projects, which have altogether like about a $1.2 million line of credit that's active, is also available. So there's been a wash as far as capital goes there. So that is something else that would be drawn upon if, for instance, the price of ETH decided to turn around and drop. So we're fully comfortable and confident that everyone and anyone that would want out would have 100% refund.
And so let's just say theoretically 100% of the people that bought one out, are you going to be able to return 100% of the NFT? And if you NFT sales, and if you did do that, how would you get this up and running? Because I know a lot of that was going to be part of the funding. So I think what people are going to be concerned about is too many people pulling out, the project dies, and the people that didn't pull out are going to be kind of left holding the bag.
Right. No, so the project, that process has already started. we would utilize that line of credit. We'd utilize that as debt instead of utilizing, the money that was in the treasury. Alternatively, we could go the route if we ever needed to of bringing in VC, which we're trying to avoid. Obviously, the point of a DAO is truly being a DAO, and that's always been the goal. But no, anyone and everyone that would want out would absolutely be able to receive that, and the project would still go on.
And that's like even if 100% of people want it out, they can get out.
Even at 100.
So how long are you honoring these refunds for? Because I mean, obviously, people need to make a point. That's I'm not 100, but just to say, I'm not 100% sure what I want to do right now. I need to kind of digest this a little bit, but I'm sure people are going to wonder, like, at some point, they're going to have to make a decision, either they're in or out. How long can they get out?
That's something that really hasn't been discussed. I think really for it to be fair, it would be a situation where they really have time to kind of look at their personal situation, at what they feel is going on, in the market. I think that a 2 to 3 day time frame would be feasible for that. But that's something that maybe we'll kind of poll the community a little bit and kind of see what they think, and poll some of the admins and mods and kind of see what their thoughts have been on that. But I would say around that time frame.
Yeah, I would say you definitely don't want to be loosey-goosey with this. I would say you're going to want to pick a time frame and you're going to want to stick with that. I, I would not want somebody to be in a position where like, oh, I can get a refund, and they think that for some reason they can get a refund all the way up to launch, and then they find out they're not going to be able to do that. So I would say, encourage you to pick a hard deadline on this. Let people get out and know that they can get out by a certain time frame, that you will process as refunds by a certain time frame. Just give people that clarity is what I would encourage you to do with that.
Absolutely, and that's something that we'll definitely do after having that discussion. We'll post an announcement. It's on all channels. Not only the submission date, but then also the process date.
Yeah. So this is what's going through my mind at the moment. Again, I don't know what I want to do. Okay, but there's going to be some thought behind this. Is this a race to zero kind of scenario? In other words, as people pull out, the people who are not pulling out are going to be asking themselves the question: if the sentiment, number one, is really bad, okay, which it's going to be, I'm confident after this. Number two, if you are having people pull out and there's a lack of kind of the liquidity there, and you're having to rely on debt and this type of stuff, how successful can this be come launch? Because I know nobody wants to have confidence and faith in the project only to have it launch and find out that it's going to fail because too many people pulled out. So that's my concern, is how can this be successful given the sentiment that's going to likely be really bad? And how do you ultimately as a project recover from this?
Sure. Firstly, if we take it in kind of two pieces there, the original model was only built for the NFT sale of roughly 250,000 tokens. We've exceeded that by a number of 4. And then when you add the debt element to that, again, 100% could request refunds, and the project would continue. There would be no tokens allocated, or everything would be at launch. In that situation, if everybody did that. But it absolutely could go on. From that standpoint, we wanted to build a kind of a bulletproof model of being able to get started, because again, that's what we saw as the main issue. That was the issue in other projects. That was the issue in other deals. How do we kind of get over that hurdle? And so we set the bar very low to be able to do that, and the community has exceeded that.
So I think where I'm coming from is how much of the success is going to be dependent on community, which is going to be obviously driven by sentiment, versus the sort of off-chain assets treasury, the entire concept of what you're trying to do. I think people are going to weigh this, and I always look at 80/20, like what is the main couple of things here to look at whether this is going to work or it's not going to work. And if somebody is in this and they're thinking, well, gee, I mean, I don't know what to do. Should I pull out? Should I not? It's going to come down to how much is the pulling out of the members? Let's assume worst case scenario, 100% of people want refunds. How successful can the project be under a circumstance like that?
With Fiscus DAO, wildly successful. And again, the reason why, I think what some may realize, and others that haven't yet, and maybe this is the opportunity, but the difference between us and others is that the treasury grows based on the off-chain assets, based on that conversion. And so it's not based on minting, it's not based on bonding, it's not based on elements on chain. We could effectively launch without doing the LBP. We could launch really without doing the whitelist. We saw those as opportunities to really increase the size of the treasury, but at its core, they're not needed to actually get started. And so because of that, we would still be successful. We might start out a little bit smaller, but we would still be successful.
So why even go this route? I guess what I'm wondering is if the community sentiment is going to drive, selling pressure or whatever, and it's like it could still be successful, why not just like start a company, get debt, and kind of do this whole thing without going this route? Like, you see what I'm saying? Because it almost sounds like it wouldn't matter either way.
Yeah. The shortest answer to that is that, the elements of a DAO from a social perspective, they speak to me. They speak to Princess. They speak to Dr. Murati. They are what's really important to us. Everyone has had, various successes, them, I would say more so than I, dealing with my past, but, because of that, it's that social element. Having projects that stem from the community is important. Having projects that people have an ownership in, not just from a financial standpoint, but really owning that project in the fullest sense of the term. That's important. And so it's based on that. It's based on all the social elements.
Yeah. I mean, I like to, I'm kind of a contrarian thinker. Okay.
Mhm.
One of the reasons I'm in crypto is because I'm a contrarian thinker. When I see FUD, it's not that the FUD doesn't have legitimacy. It's that if everybody is saying that, I want to take a step back and say, okay, let's take a step back, get the facts, because I always believe there's three sides to every coin. There's a heads, there's a tail, and there's the edge of the coin, and it's on the edge of the coin that you can see both sides. And there's always elements of truth on both sides. And so when I see what's going on, the first thing that I thought of is I didn't know what degree you were involved with the project in. I figured that due to the great research that the community did, I knew you were likely involved at some level. I just didn't know what it was. And I started asking the question, okay, let's just, logically for a minute, if I was to try to screw people over, rug pull, whatever you want to call it, I wouldn't be refunding the money. Okay. Now I know some people have said, well, that's to further the elaborate scam. I think you have to be careful with that just because if you take that mindset, then nothing can ever be legitimate. And a project can never make themselves legitimate because everything they do is always to further some scam, supposedly. So be careful with that. But, I understand that there was something like 800,000 tokens, from what I heard, were sold during the NFT launch. At the price that would come around $4 million, give or take, if my math is correct. So, I mean, the way I'm looking at this is you could have ran away with the money before anyone found out who you were without doxing anybody, I suppose. So there's that part of me that's looking at this and saying, well, if you were really trying to screw someone, why wouldn't you just, I mean, this is crypto. You could have put that into Monero or the secret network or something, and nobody would have ever figured out whoever owned it. You could have ran away. I think one of the issues, red flag for me personally, this is me talking, was the mention of a launch price at, 250 to 500 or $1,000. Kind of a problem because it's creating this sort of this hype. And I think I'm just judging personally based on my experience at the moment. I think it was maybe excitement speaking. I don't think that was maybe a very good approach, just because it does give the appearance of like an investment opportunity and all this other types of stuff. And I think it's good that you're refunding. But I'm looking at this from a logical perspective of if I was to try to scam somebody, I wouldn't be returning the money personally. Okay. Yeah, we can always go into these conversations about whether it's some part of a deeper, elaborate scam type of thing. And I get all that. I'm just looking at this logically. And I'm also looking at this from another perspective of, one of your members that was Docs, A.B. McCaw, I think his name was, works for you, right? In Alpha Lease Management. So I'm trying to think, well, you didn't this is just me. This is my personal opinion. Like, you didn't do a great job at hiding yourself. And I do think there is something to be said of you coming forward and revealing who you are and returning money. I feel like you could have ran away. Was it $4 million? Go. Just, I'm going to let you comment on what I'm saying. There's really no question. I'm just kind of giving my honest sort of interpretation about what I'm seeing without having really digested this very long, of course.
Yeah, I know. I think absolutely accurate. I think one of the admins really said it best of to trying to do the right thing in all the wrong ways in a big way. When it comes to just fulfillment of certain items and getting things done and being daunted and the NFT. So because it was such a success, from a back office admin side, there were a lot of issues which pushed timing and pushed dates and everyone's excitement kind of furthered that. So I would definitely echo that, and closer to $5 million than four. Also, as far as total tokens, closer to 1 million than 800,000. So there's that element. But no, you're absolutely right. There were a lot of things that were done mistakenly, and the biggest on my end was just not being forthright at the beginning with who I was. Again, not trying to hide who I was, but trying to utilize this anonymity that we have, in crypto. When I look out and see everybody on now, it's avatars, right? You have a few that have their faces and names, but for most it's avatars, and that was something that gravitated to me because I thought that I could hide in that and just be judged on merits. But it's really hard to lead that way, and that's something that several have brought to my attention and really impressed upon me in the last day.
Yeah, appreciate that. I want to ask kind of a more practical question about the project itself. I've gotten this question a couple times, and I'm not a real estate professional here. I don't dabble in that arena, so I'm giving the answer that I'm giving based on my limited knowledge. So I'll just run this your way. There's a lot of people that say that Fiscus DAO is not bringing off-chain assets into the treasury. What they're doing is providing financial investment, like seed funding for projects, and kind of locking the returns up in a smart contract and things of that nature. And they're trying to say that these $1 billion projects really don't need like this couple $1 million or whatever it is. Can you kind of speak to that? Because there's some legitimacy to what they're saying, but because I don't dabble in that world, I don't know how much or how little legitimacy there is.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say to a lot of those, and I know that Princess could echo these sentiments for sure, but you have a lot of projects that have a level of risk that traditional finance just is not suitable for. You have projects in locations as far as geographically that obviously certain lenders, don't want to touch, and you have projects of a certain size that also make them not able to receive financing in various ways. And so the fact that what Fiscus will be doing continually is providing those things for those projects, not for all projects per se. There are some that if they can go and they can get the financing somewhere else and they're well capitalized and capable, then so be it. We're in that more of a niche category, but at the same time, that niche is large enough, and the part that we can craft out is large enough for us to be able to successfully grow the treasury.
So what I'm hearing is that these projects are on the higher risk side. So how does that not bring risk inside of the treasury and kind of make Fiscus DAO itself risky? I mean, I understand that there's projects like solar waste, if I'm getting that right, different green energy type projects, things like that are a little bit on the higher risk side. but I do know that there was also a resort in Nevada mentioned, which I wouldn't think would fall into that category. But wouldn't that make the treasury now risky if you're bringing those kind of risky assets in?
Normally it would, but again, remember the principles of Fiscus is just to provide that initial seed and be paid back before the project even begins, to be paid back from financing. And so by doing that, there's no long-term risk in the project. Now, if we're able to negotiate, let's say, equity on a project long term, then we still would be receiving that equity without any capital at risk. And so that's the objective, is to make Fiscus not have that long-term risk, to not have project risk, to not have the risk of even a principal, as far as a person goes. And so by doing that, we can grow.
How long do these, I don't know whether you know the answer to this or not, but these projects that you're talking about, how long does it take for them to actually turn revenue, for that revenue to become one of the inflows into the treasury versus just like an initial funding and then like you have to wait this long period before they actually start generating a revenue in return?
It varies by project. Some projects that would be, let's say, an acquisition of existing commercial real estate are cash flowing immediately. Some projects like a large energy installation, it could be several years. And again, that's why the focus is on the financing aspect and being paid back from the financing initially. The first phase of Fiscus being paid back that way. We don't have to rely on a revenue stream that's coming years in the future. When that does arrive, if we've negotiated that on a project, then it really is just a bonus, if you will, to the treasury.
So aside from the initial upfront, it sounds like what the treasury would be receiving is upfront. It's front loaded, in other words. Then you're going to have to wait a degree of time that varies to actually get revenue to come back into the treasury. So between the time that you get the initial upfront into the treasury and you get the revenue later on, you're going to have to supplement the inflow to the treasury with more projects. So I guess the question is, how many projects do you have lined up, and in what efficiency can you keep bringing more and more projects in, beyond that, to kind of sustain the treasury until that revenue can actually kick in?
There's a lot, and I know that I may have not be speaking as specific at times and use kind of lofty numbers. But when we look at projects, I mean there are viably hundreds of projects available now without really diving deep into a pipeline. And a lot of the projects also have the ability to scale, but in order to scale, they need additional debt, and so that gives an opportunity for Fiscus to be able to, again, provide that same element, let's say, of that seed capital continuously on some projects. Other projects, as they grow, they could do the same thing themselves. And so that's why Fiscus projects, was thought up, which is, let's have the community bring projects to the table, in their areas, in their countries, in their certain places where they reside. Let's have those projects so that we also supplement what would be coming from outside of Fiscus to really give that continual flow.
Talk about alpha lease management for a little bit. I'm just going to tell you what people have said. I have no opinion on it, okay? But a lot of people have said that it's a shell company. There's some concerns about some of the team members. I think I may be getting the names wrong. I think Josh Johnson, one of the concerns that he was maybe had a pass. Can you talk a little bit about Alpha Lease Management, what the company is, how long it's been around, what you guys have done, just kind of the overall gist of that, as well as the team behind that, if you wouldn't mind?
Sure, of course. Firstly, let me address Josh Johnson. The fund that was in the chat, the whoever individual they found, that's not even him. Doesn't even look like him. Is not him. I've known him literally since almost birth. He's amazing. He's a phenomenal friend to me, and is a straight shooter, in every manner of the word and term. So there was a mistaken identity there. With the rest of the team, fortunately, I've been able to surround myself with with great people that really have support the thought of Alpha Lease. And again, Alpha Lease was created to fill a vacancy, and that vacancy was in commercial real estate. We became a tenant in projects. There are certain projects. Anyone that wants to kind of look into some of those things and see the Rolodex of projects, there's a few that they could look at, and several new ones that are coming online that we have not started yet. Really, as time has been spent on Fiscus more than Alpha as of late. We're located in Fort Worth. For those community members that are local, and I think this might be bold, and I probably should ask my wife for this, but if you can come by the office, and we can have a chat.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you for that. I'm trying to think here. A lot of people, I'm sure they're going to feel betrayed. I'm sure you probably expected that coming. I don't think that's probably too much of a shock to you. What moving forward are you willing to do and not willing to do? Like, can 100% of the team be doxxed? What are you not willing to show? What are you willing to show? Because I think at this point, in order to salvage anybody that wants to remain with Fiscus, they're going to want as much transparency as possible, because they're going to feel like it's true they haven't really gotten that up to this point. So could you speak on kind of the future of transparency, what you're willing to do and not willing to do on that front?
Sure. And again, this goes with the objectives of DAO governance, and so what I feel this does is it makes that more important now rather than after launch, rather than, let's say, a year from now. It's something that now, we need snapshot now, we need votings now. And so based on that, yes, full transparency when it comes to fiscal transparency. I think that not only having everyone that's docs, of course, be on Multi-Sig, but when it comes to even having community members, whether it's a committee, and again, these would just be ideas, really open to any and all ideas when it comes to that. But I think that everything is on the table. Other than maybe some elements of a super personal deep dive, because obviously I do have a family. But outside of that, when it comes to Fiscus, everything is on the table.
And will all of the members be doxxed at some point, like 100% of everybody working on Fiscus?
I think that is very, very much likely that everyone will be doxxed. Yes, and I know there may be one or two that may prefer maybe a rug doc or a private docs. But those would be the exceptions, and definitely not the rule. And based on where we are now and where we're going, conversation will be had to make it even so where there's even additional transparency than that.
There's a lot of people that want to know how the money for the NFT sales were used. I believe 30%, correct me if I'm wrong, was taken off chain. It was moved to exchanges, supposedly. I'm assuming here that was done to cash out. A lot of people want to know exactly how, when, where, and why that money was used. Now, I'll just say up front, when I read that, we're not investing in securities here, right? We're not in a regulated space. People don't even have to dox. Okay. That being said, I think with what has happened, more transparency, as much as you can possibly do, is going to be better than not. And I never had the understanding, by the way, that the NFT sales were going to be locked as liquidity. My understanding was the whitelist sales would be locked as liquidity, but there was still some concern that these funds were moved off of crypto, they were off ramped, and now no one knows how that money was used. Are you willing to show how that money was used at all?
Absolutely, yeah, without question. We'll prepare that, and so everyone knows and can see that. And we'll post it. We'll post it here in the Discord server as well. The thing that's very different about Fiscus is that we don't just exist on chain, and we're bringing partners, whether it be legal consulting. We're bringing groups that don't normally deal with crypto to crypto to spur that adoption. And so because of that, some of these groups are setting up new Coinbases. They're setting up, new metas, and so based on that, we definitely want everyone to know what's going on. But those are the things that are happening. Again, nothing nefarious. If that was the case, like you mentioned before, $5 million, and we wouldn't necessarily be having this conversation, which would be so sad given what's happened to these other projects. But that's not us. We're here to stay.
Yeah, I'm gonna just be upfront. I think as much transparency as you could possibly do at this point is going to be better, and you're going to have a lot of people who are naturally going to be fearful. I wouldn't say I'm operating out of fear at the moment. I'm just trying to digest everything and get all the facts and kind of think and pray on what I want to do. I don't know if I specifically have any other questions at the moment. I'm sure people are ready to ask questions, and I might hop back in if I think of another question. But I don't think I have anything else at the moment myself.
Thank you for those questions too, and we'll go ahead and get started with who we have on the list here, which is Iron Corazon, and we'll go ahead and bring up HGTP Mitchell as well.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, so I actually don't have a question. I just have a comment. Look, I was young and stupid. I made mistakes. I'm not condoning what you've done at all. I think that right from the front, you should have been doxxed, but at the same time, I understand why you didn't dox, because who's gonna, look at this project and who's gonna invest? For me personally, I respect the fact that you did come out now. I think that was a really smart decision on your part. I do have NFTs. I will partake in the whitelist. That's not for anybody else to do. Everybody's got to make their own decision, but I'm not going to hold you accountable for what you did when you were younger. If people held me accountable for what I did when I was younger, I wouldn't be married with kids right now. So, hey, I wish the project luck. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now let's go ahead to Iron Corazon.
Hey, what's up, Phil? I respect that you told us this, and I'm still down. I hopefully get whitelisted. My question was, I did fill out that form wrong, and then finally I did fix it with my Discord number. Am I still going to be qualified for that?
As far as the whitelist goes, as far as like if anyone feels like they did fill out anything wrong, feel free to just resubmit, and we'll reach out and we'll verify it. We usually know that the second form is normally more accurate than the first, because the first could be a mistake, but we'll definitely verify it.
And then in terms of like an in kind, like when you guys do the auction, can we get like a discount on the auction for the NFTs as an in kind for believing in you and still being in the project?
I think that's definitely something that we're willing to talk about and look at, based on just what has happened. We want to keep the trajectory flowing and really keep pushing, if you will. But I think that's something to look at for sure.
All right, but again, I believe in this, and I believe you're going to do right by us.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care, man.
You too. Let's go ahead and bring up have Jason Jablonski and Nate Newman. And I see Nate. If you want to go ahead, we're still waiting on Jason to come up.
First things first, I want to say thank you for coming clean about what has occurred. But the big question I have for you basically comes with your intentions on why you felt it was not good to let people know basically what your identity was and the details of the case, especially when in the past, I know we don't want to judge on the past, but on the past, we do have to understand that there was a case involving like hundreds of thousands of dollars and a Ponzi scheme. Wouldn't it have been a better policy to just come clean and basically say, hey, that's the old me and this is the new me. I'm going to try to become the best I can. I can only repent so much. Because at this point, it makes a lot of people apprehensive And I feel like ultimately a lot of people are on the fence and would like to hear more so whether or not your intentions moving forward are a new sanctified version of yourself or just more or so pre-programmed of your past. What would you like to say on that?
Yeah, and thank you for that question too. I would definitely say that, you know, the thoughts were never originally hiding necessarily the identity. It was more so based on, I know how big this will be, and so maybe taking that approach would really be best. And then as time went on, you know, certain steps were kind of put in place to make sure, you know, various, you know, emails and making sure conversations and you know, when I got to the point where I was telling someone off chain that, you know, those on chain know me as Cal, and so just so they would be made aware. I think that was the first inkling that I had that it crossed the line, and so that was just a mistake, you know, and that's not a mistake that obviously I would make again, because everyone now knows, and they know the project and those that believe in it, and we just have our head down and just want to do the work. But I would just say that, you know, it's not an indication of past habits coming back, you know, because it didn't stem from that place. It stemmed from just utilizing the anonymity and being just another number, just another avatar. But then it got twisted.
Thank you for that clarification, sir, and thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you, Nate. Let's see. I have Don Mega and Omar D. Bring both of you guys up, please.
Hey, good night, everyone. Good night, Phil. Cal, how you doing?
Good.
All right, so my first, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
All right, so my first question, and with all due respect, so on the last EMA, you talked about bank buyers and eight-figure buyers buying at launch, open price, and my question is, first, why will a bank pay higher price than to some people that got cheaper for boosting a Discord server? And my second question is, why will a bank associate with an ex-convict felon? This is with all due respect. I just want to complain transparently.
Yeah. Oh no. Listen, these are the questions. So I'm not quite sure on the bank element. I know we talked about project developers buying, and that's always been that model of, you know, requiring them maybe in lieu of revenue, for instance, requiring them to buy Fisk. The reason that they wouldn't be doing so earlier is really the same reason that we started a DAO instead of just going to VC or going to, you know, some type of private entity, because it has the most benefit socially if they're not involved. You know, we understand that there's wells, you know, inside of Fiscus DAO, and we feel that that's great for the capital market as a whole. But when we talk about, you know, on that VC level or that PE level, obviously that would be at a much bigger standpoint. And so the thought would be for them not to be in then. And for the reasons of association, honestly, it's from individuals like Princess here, and, you know, individuals like Dr. Murati, where their relationships speak certain volumes, that they make those introductions that normally, let's say, I would not be able to get. And then once I get in the door, then I'm able to speak my piece and show them what we would bring to the table as Fiscus, and what we could do long term. So it's because of that. It's because of the trust of those individuals.
All right. So just a follow-up question. So, sorry, I just want to make know things clearly. So we have people buying an open with eight figures, as you said, yes or no?
Yes, the project developers will be buying at open, and they'll be also buying continually. You know, every project that comes forth, we want to set aside for an acquisition of Fisk, of the token. So that's continual, and that will change the initial, the largest project, which I think obviously we talked about in the last AMA, which is the waste to energy or waste to fuel project. that's larger. That's in that 8 range. However, other ones would be smaller than that. You know, some would be just in the hundreds of thousands, but it would provide some demand frequently. So yes, absolutely, and then also it can vary after that.
Okay, just the last question. So is there any way we can know who is actually buying? Because I'm guessing if it's a VC or like a known bank, or as you said, people with a lot of money, they have a name. Is there any chance we know who we are associating with?
Again, I'm not sure where that bank element came from as far as that goes. You know, that's totally separate. You know, the banking relationships that we've started and are crafting and that we're dealing with, that's totally separate from the buying side of Fisc. That's a project side, and absolutely, we're going to post that WTE project here in the Discord as well, so everyone knows not only the details of the project, what it means to the Treasury, and all of those things. And it's I apologize on my part for that not being made available already.
Mhm. Yeah, but I'm sorry to ask a lot of questions,
Sure.
but is all of this going to be posted before the whitelist and launch price? Because I mean time, because of course no one's gonna want to buy if it's not all this information along with the whitelist is going to be available. Also, I'm sure, and I've been following this Discord a lot. We have been said docs members and whitelist should be available by now. It's delayed by 48 hours. So I'm just wondering if all of that information is going to be available before we put a cent in the project.
It is. Yeah, it absolutely is. That's me saying that directly. That is 100% facts. Everyone will have not only the details of the first project and what that means for the Treasury, but also these docs individuals on the site. I mean, that will be available here shortly. It is fully complete, so everyone will be able to see them, their emails, and be able to see that in full, as well as profiles. So yes, you know, it's been a missed deadline on that because of everything else that's going on, and this situation with myself, which is distracted from doing that. But that has now been resolved.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Don Mega if we can now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
It's just I only got 2 questions, but just a couple of statements. I appreciate you answering the hard questions the way you do, because I'm kind of hot-headed, and when I was listening to Showtime, I was like, you know, I can't understand everything, but you just stayed calm. So I appreciate that, because that says a lot. And I'm glad it's launching on AVAX. And I just hope that when it does come out, because I've been following the Fraud King with another DAO, because I'm getting into him, that it has where he set up a way where you can wrap the tokens, and it helps a lot after I researched it. So I'm hoping that somebody can just give out instructions, because I'm not involved in the white paper or anything like that. I'm new to this. I used to be a person who just holds and holds and holds and pray, but now I've noted to actually do things, you got to get active in the community. And I'll do my own research, and I'll never invest more than I can afford. So I mean, I support you 100%. I've done a lot of bad things in my life, but I don't consider myself a bad person. And sometimes it takes failure to succeed. So I just want to say none of this is phasing me. I believe in it, and I think that I'm going to be very early, and I think that it'll pay off well. And if it doesn't, we'll try it again.
Thank you for that. You know, absolutely. I think that, and this is something that I kind of hold as a personal philosophy from past failures. You know, we're defined by how we push forward. And you know, I would say that personally, the last 24 hours have been very rough. You know, they've been very rough. You know, really just acknowledging the mistakes and pushing forward is difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. So thank you for that, Don Mega.
You're welcome.
If we could have Fiscus.
Hey Cal, how's it going?
Good. And feel free to call me Phil.
Phil. I just want to say thank you for having this. I think it was really important that you address these in the fashion that you have. With that all being said, we've been a party to all of the sentiment and everything. I think you've touched on it a lot so far, so I won't really go into all of that. But what I do want to know is, you mentioned that you've worked on, I don't want to say reparations, but making things right with what happened in the past. Could you go into it a little bit of detail on what you've done to try and right your wrongs?
Sure. And it's something that I used to think about really like every day, right? You wake up, it kind of feels like a weight that's on you, and you continually think about it. So, obviously there's the financial aspect and implications, but more than that, it's really just reaching out to certain individuals. And in my past there was a lot, and there's still some that I haven't been able to reach, over the years, and that's something that I look forward to doing. But really reaching out to them, and outside of just the fiscal aspect, really just talking to them and apologizing, directly to them, and to their face, and to the ones that I have been able to do that so far, which honestly it doesn't feel like very many. It's been amazing. It's amazing. So
Hey, David, you all right?
Have you done anything specifically to any parties that were specifically injured because of your actions? Have you made reparations? Or have you really just been kind of, trying to make amends where you can?
both. No, direct reparations as far as money goes. There was in that past, and dealing with all that as far as the actual money elements, for sure. A lot of that was handled by certain government agencies that kind of take care of that. And then outside of that, to those that I've either come across or reached out to, those, it's been more on a personal level, and there's still work to do there. I'm not going to say that it's done, or even 50%, honestly. But that's something that I definitely will do in the personal time continually.
Understandable. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much as well. Let's do Mo Gates.
Hello, Phil. Can you hear me?
Yes, nice and clear.
Oh, brilliant. Firstly, I'd like to say that you're a very interesting character. I feel like you're very articulate and very well spoken. I think Fiscus DAO is a great project. I've had a look. I think it'll work. I'd just like to say that obviously I'm definitely investing. I wasn't sure, but after listening to you, and I can hear the sincerity in your voice, and I feel like you've made a mistake. You've corrected it, and people could judge you based on what you've done, but let's not judge the project. I think it's a good project, and I do think people should invest. I definitely would be investing. My brother, my family, my cousins. It's amazing. I just hope that people reconsider and just move forward. So there's no question. Just to say that I'm definitely investing. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, and for the support. I mean, that's it's huge. It's huge.
No,
Let's
I
go
mean,
to go right ahead, Morgan.
let's be fair. Look, we've all made mistakes. You've come a long way. Like I said, you sound very sincere. I mean, I doubt that you're fooling anyone. Like you've put your hands up, and like, there's no point of going on about it. As we say, we just got to keep it moving, move forward. You've got my support. My friends. I really I hope this works out, and yeah, man, just good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. If we could go to we have Diamond Hands, and let's see, San Francisco Frankie.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, nice and clear.
Okay. So Showtime kind of touched on this earlier about the announcement, and you just saying that it was out of fear and stuff, and trying to base our decision off of experience with Fiscus. But what steps will you take to continue transparency, and how will we be sure that you're not gonna make a white lie like that again.
Sure. I fully open, and I know that that may sound like a cop out or some form of non-answer, but really open, open to the community as far as thoughts of what they would think, open to thoughts that you would have, when it comes to that. But what I can think of offhand, obviously, you have the fiscal elements, and you have the fact of we are a DAO, and the sooner we fully become that in terms of voting, in terms of the every decision being decentralized, then the sooner that I don't exist. The sooner that one person truly doesn't exist. So, my thoughts would be let's get there. And then along the way, open and transparency from me fully, whether it's through, weekly AMAs and recaps of everything that was done during that week, whether it's to, having, two or three people that are with me and we're making these decisions in the short term, from the community where they're a part of, almost like a monitor. Thinking of some other like projects that would have that type of oversight. So anything like that, I think is phenomenal. And any other suggestions that someone would have, I think we should try.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much too. All right, let's do a few more here if we can. D Morg and Steve 33. Oh, we have Frankie now. If you want to go ahead there, Frankie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So, I wanted to ask about your sentencing. A lot of times in cases of fraud, you're barred from, participating in traditional finance, in addition to having to make payments back to those who were injured. Was any of that part of your financing? And is this DAO just a scheme to pay those people back?
Oh, I never thought about it from that angle. No, it's definitely not that. That obviously has never been the thought as far as that goes. From a bar perspective, did the requisite time, did the supervised release, which was 3 years, did all that and completely done with that. So no, it's no sort of scheme. The entire agenda, the whole intent of Fiscus was just to fund projects. The thought was originally the first thought was to really kind of further, alpha. But then as Fiscus really developed, realized that would be a honestly just a big conflict of interest. If the DAO and everything in it was used just to fund projects on a company that I owned, that obviously wouldn't be fair and didn't look fair. And so because of that, Fiscus has become bigger and more important. And so it exists by itself. It's not here to feed or benefit something else.
Follow-up question, if I may.
Sure.
As far as off-chain investments, people in the real world don't have quite the same risk tolerance that we degens in crypto have. We'll throw money at anything even without a, face to the name. Off-chain, I think somebody already asked this sort of, but you're dealing with these companies and large amounts of money, and you are, a convicted felon. You mentioned, using the relationships of other people in the company, but in the end, you're the CEO and the face of the company. When these folks find out, what's going to happen? And, if it came to that where it was an issue and the community and the DAO requested it, would you consider stepping down as CEO?
Absolutely. Shortest, easiest answer ever. Absolutely. Yeah, without question. If that was asked, literally 2 days after launch or whenever the question would be asked, absolutely. This exists to be bigger than me. It will continue to grow with the methodology. So absolutely. I don't want to get in its way at the same time as wanting to see it flourish. So absolutely. And to date, again, based on those phenomenal relationships with individuals like Princess Viray, they have an understanding that even though I do have that past, that I see things a little differently than kind of the average. I see structures somewhat differently. And so that's been to the advantage. But again, I would absolutely step away.
Okay, appreciate that. Is Princess going to chime in at all on this, or a lot of people are asking?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free, Princess.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. And we have Steve 33. If you would like to go ahead there, Steve.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time, Phil. Got two main questions. Number one, will you guys be doing any partial refunds to help people like reduce some of the risk?
Absolutely, and have already done that for sure. Yeah, there's
Okay.
been I would say maybe I'm not sure the exact number, but there's been several that have said, based on obviously what was happening in crypto, even outside of Fiscus, and just in general with everything finding out everything today, that they wanted to kind of pair off where they were at with NFTs, and absolutely, we abide by that for sure.
So like partial, just maybe half or whatever,
Absolutely.
75%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's several that had. I could think of one individual that had five NFTs and paired off two, went down to three. Another one at 15 that went down to 10.
Cool. And my other question was about your partnership with the Cryptonaires. Do you mind going into detail about the fallout there and what was discussed and how you guys decided to end it? Or, do you feel you've been wronged? I just want to know because that was the group that I was introduced to your group through. And just want to give you the opportunity to say your piece because all the information is going to come out, throughout the next couple days. Just give you the platform to say what you have to say.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for that. In dealing with the Cryptonaires, they have been one of the greatest groups I think that I've ever dealt with from a professional perspective. That fallout, and fallout is a word that is not even accurate because you're literally talking about, the decisions that I made of being anonymous, affecting them and affecting, their membership and potentially their reputation. And so to say a falling out would not be accurate. I would definitely say that because of a unilateral mistake on my part, they had the foresight to say, you know what, let us step aside, let us step away so that our members are not necessarily affected continually. And so that's what that situation was. Originally when doxing was asked and respectfully declined, that was before a lot of FUD that was before, really coming forth with this decision. And so, they were looking out for their members, and I know that that's something that they'll always do. So I hold Crypto Sensei in the highest regard.
I get that part. I just want to know, like, at what point, what was the piece of information that was released that the decision was made that the partnership was over, and do you think that piece of information being released or that decision coming to ending the partnership was fair? That's the angle that I was coming from.
Okay, understood. Sorry about that. Yeah,
All good.
specifically, I definitely think it was fair, and I think it was maybe a lot more amicable than maybe people realized. Also, I think that had I pushed through with doxing at that point, it may have not been viewed in the same way. But because I did not, they were in the standpoint to where they wanted to protect their members from any possible exposure to any person that had a crazy background that they didn't have details of. And so again, fully respect them for that. And that's how that happened. And there's really nothing else to that I know or could even speak on. Again, hold them in the highest regard.
Appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you as well. If we could, let's go to let's see. D Morg. I think we tried you already there, D Morg. Sister Ciensis and Azazel. I'll have both you guys.
Hi. Can you
Did y'all mention when the website would be updated?
Yes, literally right after this, it's done, so it'll be published.
All right, cool.
Yeah, right after this, everybody will have the team member profiles and emails and be able to see that.
All right,
Absolutely.
sounds good. Thank you.
Very welcome. And Azazel, and I'll go ahead and bring up Big Bird for next as well.
Hey, Phil, can you hear me?
Yes, nice and clear.
Okay, sorry. So I must apologize. This is definitely amazing that you're doing this, coming forward and putting it all out for everybody to see. But I do have some tough questions for you. So again, there's no ill intent on it. I just want to clear up the air because I'm sure other people have the similar questions for you.
Go for it.
So my first question would be: you mentioned that you made some mistakes in the past. In that past, you had a partner. Is that partner involved with Fiscus?
No, are you saying from the case that I had in the past in 2008? Just to clarify, we're talking about that.
Well, just in any of your bad past where you were not who you are today.
Yeah, not at all.
Was any of those partners, because there was one specific partner that was in a 2006 or 2007 criminal case. Is that partner in Fiscus?
He is not. No, he is not.
Okay.
And I know the exact individual that you're speaking of is actually he was an assistant for me at the time. He is not. Haven't spoken to him. He's actually one on the list that I'd like to speak to, and I know where he's at, and so that's somebody that I want to reach out to. But no, he is not. I haven't had any contact with him in over 15 years.
Okay, thank you for that. And then my other question is, the last time we spoke, I had a question about roadmap and growth-wise, right? So I see a lot of people are talking about like saying that they do believe in the project, they do see like a lot of value in it. But how is that possible from your point of view if there's no white paper published? And it's I know that the last couple of days have been really tough, but the whitelist was supposed to be published 2 days ago, if I remember correctly, and it's still not there. So how can you be sending that assurance when the timetable is a little bit off if you don't?
You're spot on. No, the white paper, and that's something that I was like the admins actually brought up to us today, mods. It has of uber importance. Literally on the short list, it was, the website, and then right after that, making sure that everyone has the white papers, because I mean, you really can't make a sound, incredibly sound decision without that, and we want everyone to be able to make a sound decision, right? We know it's crypto, and that there's hype and there's all that, and we know that what we've done so far, and the size of the community and the growth and all that, gives it all the warm and fuzzy, but we want everyone to have the full and complete details. So it's a priority over these next 2 days to be able to have that completed and posted for everyone.
Okay, so do you have an actual like hard timeline for that one? No. Previously, the reason I bring that again is because previously it was 2 days ago. Now we're seeing another 2 more days. Is that a hard cutoff?
Yes. So the light paper will be completed by Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, thank you for that. So my next question is there was a rumor going on, and I believe a couple of people mentioned it earlier, but somebody was told that there was a bank on board with a really large bag in their hand, and it was a bank with possibly one of the top 12 banks in the country, in the U.S. at least. Was that just a rumor that started outside of your conversation with some of your partnership, or was that something that was internal and then it fell apart? What happened there?
No, I would definitely say that definitely was misconstrued in some way. As far as a buy perspective of Fisk, of the token, that's something that we can require project owners, developers to do, as far as in either in lieu of as high of an ROI in certain situations has been a thought, or just directly because it's good for them as well, right? If they're holding Fisk because of the price appreciation. So that's for project owners and developers. That thought with the bank, no, not in that way. We are actively looking at some great banking relationships, and there's a meeting that will occur actually this next Tuesday. I can say that, but no, at this time, nothing else that would be dealing with a bank.
Okay, thank you for that. One final question, if I may. So,
Sure.
question about I think the Showtime brought it up earlier that if this was a rug pull, you would have taken off with the $5 million. I can understand that. However, the whitelisting is a bigger whale, so there is a possibility that there might be a rug pull done after the whitelisting, after the whitelisting money has been paid to you guys. How do you? I guess my question would be like, how do you send us assurance that that is not going to happen? And I know this is like a really bad question to ask somebody that if you were going to do it, you're not going to tell us, but how do you address that type of a concern?
Sure. Liquidity lock, and not having access, a large multi-sig, again, open to, certain individuals, maybe from the community, somebody that has some good trust basis in the community, outside of the team, because again, we know that the team is new and even most are even new to crypto in some manner, and so it would be that. But no, the thought for the whitelist and the LBP, we're always having full-fledged liquidity lock, because again, we don't want there to be anyone that says, okay, if we raise $50 million in the whitelist, that's what everyone's looking for, and that's what's going to rock. So there has to be those protections in place. And honestly, we don't that I think will end up being standard. I think we talked about this on one AMA maybe two ago, where that should be standard. Where everyone has that. Every project does that.
Okay, I appreciate that. One final question. So there was part of the previous MMA or AMA, there was a name brought up, David Moss from Strong Block. There were some rumors going around that either you or somebody from your team reached out to him, and that didn't go so well, or it did go so well. What did that look like? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, did not go well. And yes, I did reach out, and the problem was when I reached out, word had already circulated, because I did mention on an AMA that it would be great to have him or someone like him, on a multi-sig, on our multi-sig. And I think the problem was, a little bit of that, that American telephone game, that it was translated to certain individuals that he already was on it, or that we'd already talked about it, and that was not the case. I was simply looking for an introduction with him, and so, his response, which was very professional and courteous for sure, was that he was interested in finding out more about the project. He did not like that his name had already been associated with Fiscus, and that was it. And again, very very courteous and very professional. So from our perspective, again, it could be anyone that has kind of that general consensus of trust. There's a 4 or 5 I think that are on maybe my top of the list that I think would be great, and so we'll try to reach out to them. But until then, we just move forward with what we have and provide more information to everyone.
Okay, awesome. So then whitelist is from the 10th to the 12th, if I remember correctly. How likely is it that the multi-sig will be in place before that sale goes live?
It will 100% be in place before it goes live. Yeah, we won't do it if it's not in place. We won't do it if everyone doesn't know what the benefits of that first project will be. We won't do it if there is no white paper. And so those are the elements that are required. Otherwise, we don't want anybody to make a shot in the dark. So that's part of the additional transparency that we want to bring to the table. Great question.
Okay, thank you for that. Are we still good to go for a launch on the 22nd, or has that been delayed because of the recent events?
With recent events, we feel like that is going to be delayed. That's something we're going to take a hard look at, especially this next week on Tuesday and Wednesday, and kind of give maybe a little bit more accurate of a date, based on everything that's occurred and based on really community sentiment and where we need to go.
Okay, thank you so much for answering all the questions. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you for those questions. They're great questions. if we could go to Big Bird.
Hey man, can you hear me?
Yes, nice and clear.
Okay, sweet. Thanks for your time and thanks for having me. I appreciate you taking all the time to answer everybody's questions. You've been very thorough. I just had a couple quick questions. Are you going to be included on the site when you dox all your team and everything?
Yes. So originally, obviously, on there as Fiscus Cal Soda, it's Cal, and so that will be adjusted. Yeah, it'll be listed like that tonight, but we'll do some editing and make sure that it's me, and you can see my my beautiful face, which is not. But yes, you'll be able to see.
All right. The other question was, given your identity, how have you been getting
that are in
these
the States, in Texas, feel free to come by and we can have a chat. I know that's an open invitation, which is big, but feel free. I mean, that's how transparent that I want to be moving forward.
Right. And given your identity, how have these other off-chain businesses been reacting? Like, what have you been doing to get their trust and get them on board?
For most of them, it's about the structure. Being honest. It's and I think that's the thing that maybe initially I really gravitated towards project finance, towards structured finance, because it was about the deal, right? And I think that for a lot of people, that's what really kind of brings us into crypto, is that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you're at, you have the ability, the blockchain is the blockchain, the networks are the networks, and you can go from there. And so based on that, they have the utmost in confidence in the structures, and because they understand the structures, they don't care as much about the people as ones would think. However, at the same time, it's because of great networks of people that do have existing relationships and additional relationships that I've built, that we're able to kind of exist in those realms. And again, and I say this from community perspective, we've been DM'd from those in the community that also have those same type networks. We have some real estate professionals. We have some venture capital folks that are looking at certain projects and wanting to utilize the Fiscus DAO structures for that. So that's the great thing about a DAO, is that those that have those expertise, you can come and it can really be put to use, especially with Fiscus.
I see. Thank you. One last thing is, because I know a lot of people were expecting or hoping for a video to see a face reveal, and given the lies that have been told, and I get that you don't want to reveal your identity because of the past and how you feared people may react, what's the possibility of you doing a face reveal at the end of the AMA?
Oh, it's very likely. Honestly, the only thing right now is I just can't figure it out. Just being honest. If somebody could maybe send me a DM here on how to get the video to work, which I should know, we could do it right now. Yeah, not opposed to that. That was really kind of the thought. Anyways, I wanted everyone to see me and see my mouth moving, saying these words and things. So if somebody could give me a little tech assistance on that, we can make that happen.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for having me, man, and best of luck.
Absolutely. Thank you as well. And we'll go ahead and bring up Crypto Sensei.
Hey, Cal. Yeah, just to give everyone clarity, I appreciate you coming out and saying everything that you have, and that was our main concern. Was we didn't quite know exactly who Phil was and what his to your project, and I do appreciate you coming out and just laying it out there, and I think you did the right thing, and it takes a lot of guts to do that, and I think that you actually have given your project a future. And everything and every time we've had a dealing, you have just been a stand-up person, and I just want to thank you for all the respect that you've shown our community. And yeah, I did reach out to David Moss on your behalf, and then that's what David's question too was, who is Phil? And so you know, that was pretty much what was kind of stopping us from participating in the whitelist. And you know, I do apologize for anything that kind of went on, but yeah, for our community members, you know, it's their decision whether to participate or not. We just can't be doing it through our in our community. So I do wish you the best, Cal. You have been a stellar person to deal with, and I'll be a fan. All right, thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And let's go ahead and bring up, I see Showtime here as well.
Hey, thanks for bringing me back in. Just bring a couple of some of the questions that I was thinking of. You actually ended up already answering, but I still have a few. How quickly can we get the DAO up? Is that something where we need the governance from the tokens, so we need to have a public launch? Or is it something that we can do ahead of time? How quickly can we get a DAO going so we can start having governance take place?
It's honestly, it's an element that we want to have yesterday. I mean, and I know that everyone would say that, but feasibly, I feel like it would be at least a week. And again, you know, having the whitelist completed could be, you know, more or less a kind of a prerequisite for that, or it could be maybe a secondary step. So right now, the honest answer is I don't know. But I think it's something that we have to do. We have to do quickly, you know, because again, we don't want it to be one of those things that, you know, gets pushed further along and becomes less important because deal flow becomes important and projects become more important. So that's the best answer I have right now.
Appreciate that. So I'm going to try to nail you down to some hard deadlines. I know you've already mentioned a few. Because people are going to want to set their watch, if you will. No one has much of a watch anymore, but they're going to want to set their calendars at least to certain days and times where they can expect to see things. So I think you mentioned the white paper potentially Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the new website, looks like it might already be up. Is that right?
I don't believe it's up yet. I don't think it's been published quite yet, unless it was done.
But at least after this, right?
Yes, after this, yeah, and again, when we say new website, we're talking about the additions of the team, not the UI. You know, that's something that I'm sure you're about to pin me down on a date on as well.
Okay, so when you say the new website will be live after this, that's going to be the actual content, not necessarily like the UI itself.
Yeah, not the UI at all, just the addition of the team members. Just kind of a refresh is probably a better term for that.
Gotcha. And how long after that will you be on there? About a day or so, you think?
Yes, I do. So if we could do it on let's do it on dates. Let's say that at the same time or before the light paper. So before 10 p.m. Eastern on the 7th.
Okay. And earlier you had mentioned that you'd be willing to show the actual records for those off-chain transactions. When do you think you could get around to showing the community that?
Absolutely. Let's see. I would say feasibly, because again, reaching out to everyone involved. Let's say by 10 p.m. on the 9th. And that's just including because on the 7th and 8th, we have quite a few project meetings, and I know they're going to be pretty intensive.
Sure. Let me just ask a question here. As
Sure.
a DAO is set up, what would you do if the DAO wanted to vote you out of the project? Would you allow that? Would you not
Yes.
allow it? I mean, would you, in other words, I guess what I'm saying is, would you walk away from Fiscus completely if that's what they wanted?
If that's what they wanted, yes. Yeah. And the reason that I would do that is, one, I would, you know, I'm pretty sure there would be no bars on me buying Fisk on the open market, and I would do that. And two, I would look to, if I wasn't a part, I would look to bring projects to Fisk and participate that way. And if that was viewed as being too closely held or close to the fan, then I absolutely would, and I would admire from a distance.
Okay. By the way, technically speaking, if you're looking to get your video started, on the lower left of Discord, you're going to see your username. To the right of that, you're going to see a microphone, a headset, and a little gear icon. You want to click that gear icon, and that's going to bring up a new window for your settings. You want to look for the video audio settings, and then you need to just select the right camera, and you should be able to then turn it on if you want to do that.
There we go. Look at that. Test video. Okay, always preview. Video codec. Where else do I go here? Okay. Settings, always preview video. Okay, we go back.
I know once you come back in, there's a way to turn it on. That's the part that I'm not 100% on.
Yeah, that's the part I'm still losing here. Audience invite. Okay.
Otherwise, if for some reason we can't, I'm still open to doing an AMA with you on Tuesday, and we can get the video. I mean, I know we're answering a lot of questions, so it may not be necessary. It wouldn't probably be a bad idea, and then we can get the video going. If we can't get it, that's
okay.
fine.
Yeah, if we can, I am on it. I'm not, non-technically inclined normally. I don't have that setting.
Yeah, I'm not sure after you enable it how you turn it on in here, but nonetheless, I do have. Someone keeps asking about a gentleman named Alan McCann. Is there any relation to? I'm not sure who the person is. I just something that someone brought up to me. Do you know? Is that person associated with Fiscus in some way, or you?
I don't know McCann. Now there is a McKay. There absolutely is McKay, and he's who I refer to as our solar kind of renewable energy aficionado. Absolutely, he is, and he'll also be listed on the site as well. So he's a real person.
Okay, thank you for that. Will Doney be doxing?
That's a conversation to be had at the very least. I know that RugDoc is on the table, as far as kind of a private docs. But that's kind of what I was referring to earlier on, having additional conversations with him and seeing, where he's at now.
Yeah, and then we're also just to get another hard deadline. I forgot to mention we're gonna want some sort of hard deadline on how long people have the refund.
Okay.
And I'll just throw this out there. I'm sure there's got to be somebody thinking of this. So you had a degree of refunds leading up to this point. How many refunds? How many refunds have there been up to this point? As far as you're aware of.
So refunds that have been made up to this point is 62. That's a precise number, and those they vary in size and they vary in degree of being a full refund and being a partial. And so that's 62 out of approximately over 800. And there's additional on the list that would be also worked through. We are getting a lot of DMs from some that are either choosing not to or choosing to do less. So I won't know the accurate number, but I know that 62 have been completed. And that, I really need to look at that to have more accurate number than that. But if that's something that everyone would like to know, I think that's something we can definitely do, because obviously it's a record that we'll have, and so it's the DAOs.
Yeah, one thing I might bring up, because those were leading up to this point and people were operating off of, gossip, secondhand, whatever you want to call it. They were operating off of not having 100% of all the facts. You hadn't come out yet. We hadn't had this happen yet. So I might even just as a friendly encouragement to maybe, I haven't looked at the refund form, so I don't know if people put down like their Discord username. Maybe make sure they're not DMing you changing their mind. Otherwise, you might end up with a situation where people want to reverse that. And that's kind of what I wanted to ask. If someone refunded before this and they're like, hey, and I'm not trying to sway people. It's just that if someone's thinking this in their head, hey, I kind of have decided I want to reverse this because I like the fact that you came out and I feel more confident now. Can they reverse it and get the same number back in at the same price, or are you not willing to do that?
It's really a question of fairness, and there's been discussion among admins and discussion among the mods, because they're really kind of on the front line of those that are requesting, one way or the other. The way that we viewed it up to this point is that if the refund hadn't been completed yet, but they did fill out a form and they changed their mind, like several did, then we would simply delete the form. and there would be no situation there. But honestly, I think in fairness, because there are so many, new fiscalites outside of those that participated in the original NFT sale, and they were looking forward to the NFT auction. And we've already stated that those refunded NFTs would go towards the auction. And so, in fairness and in truth, that's what we need to stick to.
I think the problem you're going to have with that is that people are going to say they made the decision based off not having the facts, and they made a emotional decision, whatever it may be, but they all were operating not on having all of the information. So now that they have more information about who you are, the past, all that kinds of stuff, I think this is now when they can actually make a really fair and impartial judgment call. But those that did it before didn't have all the information to fully make that call. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think you're going to have a problem with that just from the sentiment of the community.
Which is a great point, and that's something that we definitely should discuss, and maybe even maybe kind of do a poll vote for the community as well.
Yeah, maybe because I do understand you made you gave your word to a different party that there would be an auction, and that I understand that that's kind of a hard position because you kind of you have two different parties that really maybe are going to get a raw end of a deal. There might be maybe a middle ground potentially where people can get half back if they can't get all back. I think allowing the people to get some of them back would be at least fair if you can't do all. Just giving you my personal opinion. That way, people might, they might feel like they got a little bit of the raw end of the deal, but maybe not completely. So just a personal suggestion there.
Thank you for that. Great point, and we'll definitely take that under advisement, and not in the sense of shrugging it off, but that's a really good point that we need to talk about.
Well, thanks. And I'm just gonna right now plan that we'll have another AMA on Tuesday. I'll ask everyone on Twitter if they really want that or not, but maybe to do like a video chat or something. I don't know if there's really any other point. I'm sure there might be actually some follow-up questions after this, but that's something that maybe we can get going just to kind of provide some further clarity. And I do think maybe taking the approach as like David Moss has done, where he hops, whether it's in a Discord or a Telegram, I guess in this case it'd be Discord, or having, I don't know, a YouTube live or something on a weekly basis would be good. And, that was something that Strongblock did. And it came out of a lack of transparency, right? They had the lack of transparency problem where there'd be a 60-second video on a Friday that didn't really, it provided more questions than answers. So as a response to that lack of clarity, David started coming in every Saturday morning, and it's really, I think, there's a lot of repetitive questions, but at least the questions are getting answered. And I know there's been times I've been in the Discord here. Last Monday, I was in here, I don't know, midnight or something, and we were having a really, really good AMA. So I know you've hopped in and out. Maybe even like a set time where you just take questions each week, I think would help moving forward. That way, when people have questions, they know that there's at least a set time where they can get a hold of you.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm thinking of the office hours that a few other protocols do. That's awesome. Yeah, great idea. And that's something that we had talked about, having that said, and then obviously things kind of flux, but I think that absolutely moving forward, it would be better if it was at a set time. Phenomenal suggestion.
Thank you for that. I don't have any other questions at the moment, so you're welcome to take me off. I mean, unless Princess Vare has anything to chime in on based on anything that's been asked or said or stated or anything like that, I'm sure maybe some of us might want to hear from more from her as well.
I think I saw her take her mic off there. It is off, Princess, but we cannot hear you per se. I'll do this. I'll text her privately and see what's going on with that issue. And then if we could, in the meantime, we'll just have a couple more questions here. So I have Justin from Kryptonaires and Fuddruckers. Move you both you guys up.
Hello, hi.
Hi, Justin, go right ahead.
Great. Much compliment to you. You are very articulate, and unfortunately, it's hard to know the difference between manipulation and truth unless we have proof. So, is there any possibility that you can show us proof about the current off-chain projects?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we will have, and this is a commitment, and this is one that we'll stick to. You will have all of the information, what we have on that very first project before the whitelist, so that individuals can assess that. You can really kind of see what the methodology is for a project being not just viable, but kind of what the flair of the project is that really have the potential to give us great ROI. So yes, short answer is great. Short answer is yes, and thank you for pinning me down on that.
So that means we are going to get current off-chain projects before the latest time of the let's say the refund, right?
Before the whitelist, so before the 10th.
And before
That's correct.
the refund possibility, eh?
I think that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. So again, the refund deadline and I'm just making a note of this. So give me one moment there. So we're gonna do a refund deadline and the first project docs. So
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Obviously, you gotta have time before that. Okay. Thank you so much, Justin. I did make
Good.
a note of that. Let's go ahead with Fuddruckers there.
Hey, Phil, can you hear me, man?
Yes, clearly.
All right. So I guess without being long winded, I'll just give a brief, preface. So got introduced to the project, was super excited. Kind of was like, man, this is a great opportunity for me. Put some money in, and then obviously all the information came out and decided that I was like, you know what? I don't really have the funds to kind of put that type of risk on it. So I asked for a refund on my NFTs, which I got, which is awesome. And total respect to you guys and what you guys are doing, and appreciate respecting kind of the needs and the wishes of the community. So that being said, I just have basically two quick back-to-back questions. Question one is, what was prison like? And two is, are you an ass or a tits guy?
I don't know. I know the first one might be oh man, those are great. I would say I'll respectfully decline the second. And to answer the first, at times it was not great. Full transparency. Yeah, at times it's not great. You're away from family. You're away from those that you hold dear, and when you see them, it's limited hours. When you go outside, you have limited hours to do so. There's a lot of restrictions on movement. Personal freedom becomes very important. You don't, do certain things by yourself. Sitting on a sofa is something that was missed. Just a nice soft chair. And so it gives you this perspective that's kind of amazing. There's not a lot of, I would say, throughout normal life, there's not a lot of small situations that necessarily really get me down, because you have that perspective of, I'm free, and just being free is a blessing and is amazing. And so it helps. It helps with the perspective. But yeah, it's not great. But you find happiness, and you learn that humans are absolutely resilient. You see creativity and ingenuity in cooking and in workouts and in all the like. And so you see what humans can do, and that's something that's refreshing. But it's 100% better, truly being free, and it's valued. And so because of that, it really guides you in what you try to do, and in making better decisions. Obviously, it doesn't keep us from making mistakes, but it guides you in wanting to be a good person. I don't know if I've ever been asked that question there. Great question.
Thank you.
Very welcome. All right. If we could here, let's do two more. I have Travis O, and I did get a message too from Princess. She wasn't quite sure why her audio was at work. She was talking, but we couldn't hear her. She's still working on that. So let's try to get Travis. Let's get Travis O and Rude Awakening. And Rude Awakening, if you want to go, or go ahead, Travis O. I saw you're unmuted now.
Okay, yeah. I appreciate what you're doing. I did have a question. I was hoping Princess could answer as well, but I was curious on the numbers with that launch price. Because at 250, and you guys, I think, have 100 million market cap or 100 million tokens, like, wouldn't that be a $25 billion evaluation of the whole system? And I was curious just how you came up with that number. And also,
Yeah. Go right ahead.
the second question was, I was curious because I thought during the AMA I listened to prior, you said those 3 projects were worth like 1.5 billion. And then earlier, I think Princess said like 200 million, which is a little bit different. So I was curious what you had to say about that, or explain it.
Sure. Absolutely. And let me start with that one. So yeah, I think we're definitely talking about different projects because remember, not only do we have Princess Foray, but we also have Dr. Murati, and I'm gonna try to see if he can be available for possibly that Tuesday AMA with Showtime. No promises on that. But again, we have several sources of projects. So on her side, that 200 million mark. On our side, because of the larger project, especially the first one, the waste to energy, that's much larger. That's where that discrepancy is. That's where the larger numbers are at, because the waste to energy project is huge. And then remind me, if you would, of the first question. Oh, the valuation, the market cap.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So go right ahead.
Sorry, the launch price. I was wondering if you could explain how you guys decided on the 250.
Yeah, and again, it will be in flux, and that's something that I think probably the best thing for me to do would be to really include it in the. Let me look here in the light paper that's coming out on the in the white paper that's coming out on Tuesday by 10 p.m. Eastern, so that we include in there the kind of the thoughts on that, and you see it in print. But it's a combination of the initial tokens, and obviously some of those that might be a little bit in flux now, dealing with the NFT auction and kind of finalizing that. But the short version was that we factored in, okay, if we have 6 million tokens up to the point of the LBP, 6 million tokens. We know that in that front month at a 50K PY, that essentially, and again, this is like a ballpark number, that the token count would double to 12 million. We also knew that coming into the treasury from the first 3 projects, where we would be as far as that capital amount, the amount that is a mixture of what they're going to be buying and what they're going to be staking. And so based on that, we felt that qualified for that price. And I don't want that to sound like circle talk at all. And so again, let's put it in print so everybody can read it, and then we can all talk about it and dissect it in one of these next AMAs here this next week.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you as well. I think maybe Princess might be trying to log back in, but we're at our last question here, which is Rude Awakening. Go right ahead, Rude Awakening.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, clearly.
Okay. Mike, I have a couple questions. One of my questions is, one of the big distinctions with this project compared to other projects that you mentioned was the fact that project owners were going to be able to purchase at launch in the millions of dollars worth, which would help stabilize the floor price and keep it from tanking. How do we know for sure that they're going to do that at launch and not days later, weeks later? Because as you know, at launch, you know, the price action can be kind of crazy and it can create a lot of fear. And, you know, and one of the big things that you, as you said, is that the fact that they're going to be able to buy at launch was going to help the price not necessarily do that, which is a key differentiator. So how do we know that they will do that at launch, at sitting at their computer with millions of dollars ready to buy?
Yeah, great question. So what the original thought was, and again, not only does it help the floor price, but it also just continually is there to support demand. But originally, it was just that, as more or less how you described it. You know, kind of a loose thought of, okay, you know, we need you to do this. We're going to require you to buy between, you know, X amount of in fiat. Let's say it was $1 million, right? You need to buy that $1 million, and you have, you know, roughly 3 days. That's the agreement. And because of that, we're going to do this on the finance side. However, where we're at now, and again, this is something that we have to kind of iron out as far as the mechanics of it. But where we're at now is where we want those funds to actually already be parked so that we can see them and verify them, in a sense, already in a smart contract, so that we know that they're going to be coming in. Now, they may be held in obviously in something else, whether it's AVAX or MIM or something like that, something that will qualify for some pool. But that's the solution. And then moving forward, in a perfect world, that's what we would do. We're not there yet. And so some of those details still have to be ironed out. And that's what everyone will know before launch and before LBP.
Okay. And my other question has to do with just understanding better what phase of the process each of these projects are. Because I understand the way you described it. You said that essentially we're providing them with a backing, you know, and then once they get approved for financing, then we get paid out and we get our returns on top of it. So does that mean that these projects that are coming on now, including on day one, they've already received financing? Or, you know, like, because I really don't understand how, you know, they're going to be paying for something that they haven't received financing for yet. So I'm confused as to where they are in the stage of financing right now, and what money are they actually giving us? Are they giving us like kind of like a down payment of some sort, or are we getting our full return back now because they've already been financed?
Yeah, so no, they have not been financed. So in a let's zoom to after launch, right? Because the first 3 deals really are, I wouldn't call them sweetheart deals, but that's probably the term that would be best used, quite honestly. A normal deal flow is we as Fiscus DAO move first. So from the treasury, we allocate, let's say it was, put any number on it, but I'm going to try to not put numbers out there as much. So we put X amount. We have that in a smart contract that's verifiable. That serves as their requisite set aside for the financing that they need. So they've already been approved for it. The approval process is done. The DAO has that information. The term sheet has already been issued. The DAO has that information. It's past all that. It has to be, or else we could just be sitting there and having opportunity costs of missing out on some other deal that's farther along in the process. And so once all those things are in place and it's basically go time, if you will, then that's when that smart contract is initiated. And then from that standpoint, you know, we're trying to shorten that process down, and that's something that we'll be working on this next week. And during the next week's AMA, I hope to have some updates on that, on shortening the process. But even if it's let's say a 30-day process, then those funds would sit for the 30 days. At the end of the 30 days, the project development company or project owner receives their financing. And then out of the financing they receive, that's when we are paid the premium to the treasury. And so that's how the treasury continues to grow. But it's out of financing. It's not them coming with any money before they get financed or us giving them money before they've been approved. Both of those are bad situations.
So then where does the initial token requirement money that they have to provide, where does that fit into that timeline that you just described?
Yeah.
from
So
us?
again, for normal projects, it happens when they also fund us. So whenever we receive, let's say it was X amount of dollars that we had in the smart contract, and they paid us X plus 25%. They also are taking that negotiable number of the financing that they received that they're able to keep in cash or cash equivalents, which we've been able to negotiate to be in Fisc. That's when they're purchasing that. Now, in the situations with the first three initial projects, it's a little bit hybrid of a situation because we brought in a bridge lender, and I 100%. I know I'm kind of getting into the weeds on this, which is why this will be put out this week so everyone has this information. Because I honestly, without seeing it visually, I think it may be a little confusing. But in essence,
Okay,
we
so
have
so these
go right ahead.
first three contracts, they kind of are set up a little different than how the contracts normally will be set up.
They
So
are.
so that they could be a little bit further along, you know, with to be ready for launch, whereas everything else will kind of go on that more 30-day type of timeline.
Exactly. Yeah, you're spot
Okay.
on. Yeah,
Okay.
spot on.
All right, thank you.
Very welcome. Very welcome. And so I think with that, we will end right now. And again, just very grateful and humbled by everyone's thoughts. Again, for those that where you still feel like there is definitely some risk here. Again, we have no hard feelings in that situation whatsoever. From a transparency perspective, let us know what we can continue to do. From a governance perspective, those that have phenomenal ideas, and I know that we have, I would say at least kind of 20 DMs that we've kind of saved and set aside with different governance thoughts and different thoughts on ESG and different thoughts on, maybe having a increased increased diversity in the DAO, but also like a stronger presence for women in the DAO. Those are things that we take seriously. And so I would just say thank you to everyone. And if everyone chooses for me to continue, would love to do so. And just really appreciate everyone, and let us know how we can continue to be better, and let me know how I can continue to be better as well. And so with that, we'll end, and we'll make sure that we put out a specific time for next week's AMA, and we'll do it early. So with that, thank everyone, and good night, good morning, good evening, wherever you're at.